New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why, hello there. It's me, yes, me, Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. I am so excited to be here with you today. And if you're joining me for the first time, know that there is no coincidence that you are here. You have been drawn like a magnet to what you need to start your healing from grief. And if you're returning, oh my gosh, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad we have it that way. And I'm glad you're coming back, and I'm glad that you're trusting me to be a guide, to be that light on the path of grief recovery. So why don't you take a moment and, get a cup of coffee, get a cup of tea, glass of wine, whatever makes you feel relaxed in the moment, and get that and make this hour about you, okay? Make this hour for and about you. Grief is a difficult process. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for sissies, as they would say. Grief is hard work, and I want to be here with you to make that as gentle as possible, to allow some grace in this process, to allow that sense of ease. So get yourself whatever you need to be comfortable. You'll have a few minutes. I'll do my usual intro as to who I am and what I'm all about here today. So, as I said, my name's Bonnie Gonzalez. I am a grief coach. I'm a certified grief educator. I'm a registered nurse, a religious science practitioner, and also a licensed soul collage facilitator. But the most important part of the I am, or who I am, is that I am a human right here on the planet with you, right here at this time, going through the same life challenges, struggles, good times, and joys as you are. I'm just as human as you are. Just because I've made grief a passion doesn't mean that I get a pass. So when I speak to you about grief and the things that we go through, it's because I speak from that shared experience. I speak from my own personal experience of grief. And with that said, just want to remind you of what grief is, and that grief is just caused by loss. Loss is what we experience. And then grief is what we feel. Loss just catapults us into the arms of grief. And our grief can show up in so many ways, so many different ways. We're all such unique individuals. Just like those unique, as I say, the snowflake, each one is unique, but together it makes a beautiful snowfall. So that's us. We are all unique individuals. But together, collectively, we make a beautiful bouquet. So with that, I just want to start with my theme today is the importance of grief in our lives. And before I go another step further with our discussion on grief today, I want to move just quickly to a moment of gratitude. And I want to give, a deep bow of appreciation to Reverend Michael Mangus, who was able to do all of my rebroadcasts while I was away. I was away a little bit in the US, giving flu shots, acting in that role of nurse. And Reverend Michael Mangus made sure that my shows were up and posted. So I appreciate giving, a deep bow of gratitude to Reverend Michael Mangus. And also, I want to give just an equally and deep, maybe even a deeper bow to my producer, Joe Rothenberger, who is just producer extraordinaire. And I know that I can depend on Joe. I know I can count on Joe. And if Joe's not there, Reverend Michael Mangus has supported both Joe and I. So just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And let them both know the check is in the mail. So anyway, thank you. So I want to move into our discussion of the importance of grief in our lives. And I know sometimes as we go through life and go through losses that put us into grief, we think, what is this for? Why has this descended upon me? Why? So instead of all of the whys, let's just try to understand what's going on when we're in grief. And I do want to start with a quote by Sobonfu Somé. She was a West African priestess and a teacher, a writer, storyteller, just a beautiful spirit. And she did make her transition at a very young age, a few years ago. So taken from her words, she says, we experience joy and sadness. Many times we have grief that doesn't have word, that we don't have words for. And we also have many losses. It's important for us to grieve, to recover from what we have lost. Grieving is a soul cleansing way to reclaim and to recover our spirit. When we don't grieve, we stay in an unhealthy place and lose who we are. So it is very important to cry, to walk in nature, to express our grief so that we can feel safe and sane again. Also, so our bodies can recover from the loss. So I thank her for that understanding that as we cry and walk, that we're returning ourselves to a sense of normalcy. And it's not normalcy, but adjusting to the new way of life. I've been reading so much lately as grief being referred to as a trauma, which is very true. Grief, even if you were expecting the death, say, of a loved one, when you get the news, you're really, 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 and I don't have to say it, we've all had that. We've just been the sense of shock, like, did that really happen? I remember my father was dying. It was long drawn out illness, and he was in the hospital. And I remember when I went to the hospital, he had just transitioned a few minutes before I arrived. Even though I knew that he was dying, I was still shocked. Like, this just couldn't be. This just could not be that he would be gone. And that's been That's been over 40 years ago, and I still remember it as if it were yesterday. So with that said, that grief being thrust into that state, at that point, I would say in those initial phases, we are just numb. We're like the deer in the headlight. Like, what happened? What happened? And what is going on within the body? That's what we need to really focus on, because too many times we forget we have a body in this whole process. We may think that it's all our mind, being in anxiety and sadness and numbness. Our bodies are also struggling with this. And that's what I love that Simone refers to as so that our bodies can recover from the loss. Not too many people think about that or write to that, the body recovering from that loss. Because then what happens when we get this information, it really does put us in a state of stress, physical stress. Our body is physically stressed. The release of cortisol that we hear so much about, how devastating, how high doses of cortisol in our bodies can actually lead to shrinkage of the hippocampus in our brain, that area that's for learning and memory, and also the amygdala. It puts that into overdrive. That we start, once the amygdala goes into overdrive, that's what leads to anxiety. So knowing that there are things that are going on with us physically, not just mentally, but going on physically. I'm just going to have a little sip. So there are physical reactions that are happening in the body. And that is why rest is so important during the initial phases and stages of grief. Because 10% of our brain is actually being used to process what has happened, to make sense of what has happened. It's the same as if I'm just trying to think of an example. Yeah, maybe there was you had an accident and your car was hit or smashed. Suddenly everything has to stop and you have to see, can the car go? Can the wheels move? How much damage was done? How is this going to impact your day? Can you now not get the kids to school or not be able to get to work? It's like a pause. It's like we have this episode, this incident of a loss that then puts us into grief. And there's those initial phases of the grief that we are trying to process what is going on, how it has changed our lives, what needs to change, what needs to not happen anymore. I always say the thing that I find the most interesting and the most revealing, or that can be the most effective with grief, is that when we are in grief, that is one time that our whole essence, our whole being is about. The question is, what is this about? What is going on? And then we can get to, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want to happen? What do I want to be different? Grief gets our attention like nothing else can or does. And it's a good time to just think and just breathe and just go within. Breathe and go within. I say treating yourself like a newborn baby, being very gentle with yourself. Versus, I know in our culture that it's about do, and go. You got to be strong. You got to pull it all together. You got to get over this. That is so far from the truth of what is really needed. What is needed right now is just to go inward. Just to go inward and ask yourself what it is that you need. And I see we have beautiful Wayne here with us from Calgary. Hello, Wayne. It's been a minute. And I see that you put a note up, Wayne, unexpected death of your mother 3 weeks ago. I am so sad to hear that, Wayne. If you have a moment, can you put your mother's name in the chat so that we can remember her by name collectively? And that is one thing I would like to offer to all of you out there who may have lost a loved one. When we say, oh, my brother died, my mother died, my sister died, give them a name. It keeps their memory alive. Like for me, I lost my brother Melvin in 2020 on Valentine's Day. And I lost my sister Linda in December of 2020, a week before Christmas. So giving them a name keeps their memory alive. And Wayne, I want you to know that your mother will always with you. Death is just an illusion. I want you to talk to her just like she's sitting next to you at all times. Let her know how you feel. Be in touch with your mother. Just know that there's really no such thing as death. We just are having a sense of a bit of a separation in the physical, but not in the spiritual and mental. And the other thing I want to say too, with Wayne losing his mom 3 weeks ago, I know you're in Calgary, Wayne, but for the Americans, it's holiday time, and it's holiday time coming up. If you celebrate Kwanzaa or Christmas, all of that is coming into play. To lose someone around the holidays, really a difficult time. So many people really feel the sense of loss of their loved one. And here's what I'd like to offer for that. Have a plan. Have a plan for whatever day it is that you celebrate. If you celebrate on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever, make a place for that loved one. Or on that day, light a candle and say, I live this day for you. Have a plan. Do not let the day catch you off guard. That's what gets to be so difficult, when we don't have a plan and it catches us off guard. So with that, Wayne, I thank you for, sharing with us that you lost your mother. I just can't believe that 3 weeks ago. And to know whatever emotions that you may be experiencing around your loss are absolutely acceptable. There's nothing that you are experiencing that anyone should say to you, oh, that's not right, or get over that. Oh, that's what I'd like to say too. Unfortunately, our culture is really grief illiterate, and we don't have the words to use, to say, to describe, to put into a conversation as to how to support people in grief, how to even express our own grief. And what I wanted to say is, please, if you know that you're with a group of people that you can express your grief and be safe, do that. Because grief needs to be validated, grief needs to be heard, and grief needs to be shared. So we need to be able to express what's in us around our grief. We need to be able to empty from it. Even if it's been 20 years ago since you lost that person, if you have not expressed that grief, it's still there. It does not just evaporate or go away or go somewhere else. No, it's still in there. It's still in there. So I and just encourage you to find places that you can have your grief validated, where you can share it and where it can be heard. And some of the things that you may have to do is you may need to find group therapy, or just finding not even group therapy, but just how about just therapy in general? Grief therapy can be a valuable tool when you're navigating the difficult emotions, the death of a loved one, and not just a loved one. Say how about this one? I know someone that relocated their entire family for a wonderful job and opportunity, and the kids were enjoying themselves in school, and everything was just wonderful. And he was fired. He got fired just like that, no warning, out of the clear blue. And here they were, the entire family, in a new town that was far away from where they had lived before, like across country. And suddenly there was no support system from the old communities and the families that he would have been with. There was that sense of embarrassment and shame of having been fired. But here you are, you've relocated your entire family, set up a whole structure for them to thrive in, but to have the rug pulled from under you, which then thrust him into deep, tremendous grief. There was such sense of guilt and I won't go into all the emotions, but having grief therapy really helped him slowly to make sense of it. Not saying it was right and happy-go-lucky that way, but just to make sense of it, to see how this was an opportunity for him to really say what he really wanted in his life, what he really needed, and none of the things that so far at that point were really on that path. So it gave him another opportunity to reevaluate his life, even though he would have loved to have had that lesson in a totally different way. But that's how it came about. So knowing that therapy can be so wonderful in helping you move through your grief, and especially if you're dealing with prolonged grief, that can be really the place to start. And some people say, well, how much time limit? How much time should you give it? And psychotherapists and psychology is always trying to put time limits on things, but it takes as long as it takes. But they do say that after about 4 months of really getting in touch with that deep grief, you can start to feel some shift, some change. It's not so intense and so as overwhelming as in those initial days. So I offer that as to ways to just grieve and be with your grief. Another thing is to make space for your grief. Grief takes time and it can't be rushed. Allow yourself to grieve at your own pace and in your own way. And it's okay if we keep going around with those same emotions of anger and sadness and shock, but it's just natural. So if we can just accept that we're in grief, that's half the battle. And then you can start to make space for grief in your daily life. And I say that because if we make a place and space for grief in our daily lives, those moments of suddenly grief just coming up, sneaking out of the woodwork and grabbing you and overwhelming you, those can still happen, but the frequency of that kind of overwhelm can be decreased when we make a space for this grief. And you can do that by, if you want to set a timer for 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever you need, whatever time works for you on a daily basis or every other day, to just sit with your grief and cry and wail and moan and do whatever it is that you want to do. If it's just staring at there's something called candle gazing. If you just want to candle gaze for 10 or 15 minutes to honor that grief, do that. And also there's a big one of journaling, of just writing down what you're feeling, getting it out. Grief it comes to pass. It comes to pass through you, not to stay stuck within you. No, it comes to pass. It comes to pass to be up and out. Because the more we try to suppress our grief, the more energy is required. What we resist will definitely persist. So let it come up and let it come out. Let it come out in ways that it's natural for you. You know, so many people love walking in nature. Nature is so healing. I have some cards. We'll do a couple bit of exercises to help with processing your grief. As I said, taking long walks. How about rituals? You know, rituals, oh my goodness. You can try different rituals to honor whatever it is that you are grieving. As I said, the loss of a loved one, a job, a situation, geographical move, loss of health, whatever it is, create a ritual around that. You could also make, I call it a touchstone. It's a button, maybe a crystal or some type of object that when you hold that, it gives you permission to grieve. It reminds you that it's okay to grieve, and whatever it is, the significance that you want to put on that. And most of all, as I said, don't do grief alone. Do not do grief alone. Reach out. And just one other thing before we move to bring this to a close. I want to say it's okay to have needs. And you can ask for what you need. You can ask for what you need. You can make a list of things that just come up in the moment that, I wish I need somebody that could take the laundry or take the dry cleaning to the dry cleaners. I wish, somebody could pick up the tax forms that just don't have the energy. Keep a running list of the things that you need so that when people ask you, what do you need? Because we just are we want to help and support each other. It's an innate response to want to help. And so it's sometimes disheartening when you ask, what can I do for you? What do you need? And, I don't need anything. I'm good. But if you have this list and you could look at it and say, oh, yes, I really need someone to pick up the dry cleaning. Can you pick that up for me? Oh, my gosh, I really need the tax form picked up from my attorney by 5. So keep a running list of what your needs are so that that way it allows you to really get the support that you need during this time of grief. So I know I've said a lot. One last thing, you can also join a grief support group. A grief support group can be very helpful. And I co-facilitated for maybe a year or so of an online support group through my spiritual center back in Oakland. And we had a support group that met once a month for people to come in a place to share and get support. So with that said, I just want you to take a deep breath because I've said a lot in a short period of time. It doesn't look like Wayne, maybe he didn't, he did not put his mother's name in the chat, but again, remembering Wayne and his mother today. So let's just take a deep breath. Just blow that out. And I would like to introduce you to Grief Deck. Oh, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it because I've got the screensaver business on. But anyway, you got to take my word for it. Oh, maybe I think I got it right there. It is called the Grief Deck, and it's rituals, meditations, and tools for moving through grief. And I bought this in a bookstore in California when I was there last month. And I must say, I was a little bit angry when I saw the deck. It's like, I could have made this with my soul collage cards and as much research and as much personal grief as I've gone through. I could have made this deck, but I didn't. So I chose 3 cards today from that deck and want to share them with you. And one is a way to stop thinking, because in grief, I know sometimes we can just have a lot of ruminating going on in our minds. And another is a walking meditation. And so I think I want to start with this one. Joe, Joe, it's a card that has a yellow and blue. Looks like I don't know, an image. Yeah, there you go. Oh, isn't he the best? Isn't Joe the best? So this card taken from the grief deck, and gosh, I want to give a name. I want to give credit to the person. It's different artists, so I will just read at the bottom. It gives credit to the artwork in the prompt. So take a look at this card. And what this card is inviting you to do is how to stop thinking. It says stopping thinking. Sometimes our thoughts can tangle us up, and we need a way to break the cycle. Try drawing with both of your hands simultaneously to force yourself to stop thinking and to help relieve your emotions and stress. I've never heard of that, but I'm going to keep reading. To draw with both hands simultaneously. So here's how you do that. It says find a piece of paper and 2 pens of different colors. Tape the sheet of paper onto a table so that it doesn't move when you start drawing. Now take 1 pen in each hand. The left hand, take 1 pen in each hand. The left half of the sheet is for your left hand, and the right half of the sheet is for your right hand. Put both hands in the middle of the sheet and start drawing, with each hand mirroring the drawing of the other. Draw whatever you like, however you like. This is not a drawing competition. What you draw has no meaning, and there is no good or bad. The idea is to watch your pens make marks on the paper. I guarantee you that should stop you from thinking. So thank you. Thank you. Joe, oh, thank you. So just imagine, I can't even imagine. I've got to try it though, with 2 hands drawing at the same time, because I don't know about you. I'm one of those people I'd love to go over the same thoughts. Like maybe I missed something the first 10 times I thought about it. So I think that's called ruminating. So I will definitely try that. Along with, I have another, I'll talk about that another time, that I have another way of stopping myself from ruminating. So Joe, if we could do the ones that has the stones. There's stones on the card. Yes. Yes, and I thought this was lovely. Okay, so for those of us who would prefer not to try and draw with both hands, or maybe you'll draw with both hands and you'll try this one. Excuse me. Oh, the other one that we looked at was by the prompt, and the artwork was by Humaria. Tesnin. Okay, and this one, let me read. This one is the prompt and artwork is by Randy Beck Osena. So this one is Gathering Stones, a walking meditation. Take a quiet walk to an outdoor place you enjoy, such as a park, bench, or woods. As you walk, pick up any small stones that catch your eye. Stop long enough to examine each stone as you find it and give it a name based on what you're carrying right now. For example, name each stone after qualities of the individuals whose loss you're grieving. Name them after feelings or beliefs you hold about yourself right now, good or bad. Just name that stone, that particular emotion. If a relationship is ending, assign each stone a memory or a quality of that relationship. Carry these stones with you. When you arrive at your destination, arrange the stones into a design. Spend time sketching what you made, or write a poem or a kind note to yourself on a scrap of paper. Leave it behind with the stones, with the intention that some other person who needs them might also read your words. And I thought that was absolutely beautiful, just beautiful. All righty, Joe. And so we'll move on to our last card. And the last card with the beautiful, oh, I just love that. Isn't that just, it just makes me feel cheerful when I see that. It just makes me feel happy. And this one is acceptance. It says, let it rain. So being in acceptance. And that card is by Fili Matisse. So with that acceptance, just accepting, right where you are right now. There was a minister that used to reside at a spiritual center that I attended. His name was Reverend Jeffrey Anderson. And he would always say that suffering is not accepting what is. So when we can be in acceptance for what is, it lessens our own pain. So with that, I just want to say thank you for joining me today. I know that this has shed some light, I'm sure, on some question you may have had or made something clear. Because my objective here with this program is to demystify grief, take it out of the shadows of our lives, bring it right smack into the middle of where we are and what we're doing, because grief has beautiful gifts to give us. Let's not shy away from those gifts. Let's not shy away, because I know that I don't care how emotionally painful this is right now. I do care how emotionally painful it is for you right now. But what I want to assure you, you have what it takes to move through this, to heal from this. You have what it takes. The only thing that I ask, and the one thing that I know that will help, is not doing grief alone. Reach out, reach out, reach out. Don't do grief alone. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm sending you tons of love, and knowing that if grief is with you, it has come to pass. As I said, I am a grief coach, certified grief educator. I am here. I have a private practice. If you're finding yourself in need of grief therapy, please reach out. I am here. So thank you. And let's end with this. I want you to go to the mirror. I want you to look in the mirror, look in your own eyes right now, and say, what do I need right now? What do I need? Whatever the answer is, honor it. Again, much love. Thank you.